Parenthood is an idea that is easy to understand in a literal sense, but nearly impossible to truly grasp without experiencing it yourself. You can say, I would want my son to do this, or I wouldn't let my daughter do that. But until you've been given the responsibility of taking care of another human being, biologically related or not, it's hard to 100% appreciate the way in which parenthood fundamentally changes a person. But stories exist for many reasons, and one of them is to allow us to experience new things, get closer to ways of life that we haven't yet or will never reach. The beauty of a well-written story is that it can get you to empathize with a character whom you have nothing in common with. It can get you teary-eyed over someone you essentially just met. And never has that been more true for me than in episode 9 of Arcane. Arcane is an incredibly dense show that probably has scores of scenes worthy of dissection in each of its episodes, but there was not a single scene that had more of an impact on me than Silco's monologue on daughters. Clocking in at just around 30 seconds, it's one of the shorter scenes in the entire series, and that makes the power it's able to convey all the more impressive. Where other scenes are carried by their insert songs or beautiful stylistic visuals, this moment of reflection is just a simple 8-shot sequence with virtually no camera movement. The only colors on display here are subdued blacks, grays, and most importantly orange, as Silco has molded his domain in his own image. But there's nothing there to grab your attention away from the man himself. And that's for the best, as it allows the climax of the show's best character writing to be front and center. The still shots that never quite show all of Silco's face provide more than enough information when combined with the way he wistfully lambasts the final hand he's been dealt. As Silco shares this despondent moment of realization with Vander, or perhaps truly just himself, the shot direction is absolutely superb, framing Silco in a way that makes him seem both tiny and nearly broken. You can see the weight of his choices, the weight of time, finally catching up to him as he hunches over in front of this statue, as he wonders if it was all worth it. It is as if we're looking at a different man than the one we've been shown throughout his journey. This is not the vicious kingpin of the underworld, but a man, a father, who is simply exhausted. The symbolism that we receive from the wide angle is something certainly not lost on Silco himself. The visualization that Vander's legacy will stand the test of time, while Silco will only be remembered for the people he betrayed and the extremities he took with the eventual best interest of his people at heart. And for the very first time in the show's run, there's a real sense of hopelessness emitted from Silco. It's the first time he can't wile his way out of a problem, the first time he can't simply do whatever it takes to get whatever he wants. It's the first time his emotions have blocked his path, because it's the first time he's really been forced to choose between the thing he cares about the most and his dream. I'm not one to have a personal read of parenthood as something this hopeless, as something that you must choose over your own personal achievement, but there's certainly something to be said here for the offset that unconditional love must also receive. You can't love someone with your entire self and not sacrifice part of yourself in doing so. And in that way, the look he gives the statue is almost more telling than any of his dialogue. The first time in the entire series that he looks at Vander not with malice or contempt or fear, but understanding. It's the first time you really feel how close these two were prior to their falling out. And isn't it perfect then that he turns his bad eye towards Vander first? But all of this is simply the setup for the scene's seminal moment, for the show's strongest line of dialogue, and for the verbalization of the sacrifices of parenthood. Is there anything so undoing as a daughter? It's a powerful sentence by itself, but it also proves to be a prevailing theme in this story. Vander, Silco, and Marcus are all ultimately undone by their dedication to their daughters, while Caitlyn and Mel's mothers both have plenty of issues with theirs. It now potentially looking like the actions of her daughter was the final undoing of Mrs. Kierman, while Jay Medarda admits that she sent Mel away not out of disappointment, but because she couldn't bear to look her in the eye when hard decisions had to be made. With all that subtext, this line can easily be taken as criticism, as a man regretting his life's choices, something that Jinx certainly interprets, but I don't see it as that. Silco certainly wishes things had turned out differently, that he could have achieved his goal of an independent Zaun, but it was not worth his daughter. Nothing was, and nothing ever would, could, or should be. You have to remember that he just desperately did whatever it took to save Jinx's life, and whether she resents him for that is a whole other can of worms I won't open right now, but all of his actions point towards a man who cared more for his daughter than anything, and didn't regret that for a second. Like he says, all he'd be losing would be problems, and also a part of himself, his humanity. The biggest problem he's had to fight against in the entire show. But what's the point of achieving your goal if you abandon the one thing tethering you on the way? And therein lies the parental difference that I alluded to earlier. The way that Jinx undeniably changed Silco for the better, even if he almost certainly changed her for the worse. She softened him, even if a little, and one would have to think improved his life even if she also created a lot of headaches. She gave him someone to care about, someone to care for, and a familial bond that he had all but given up forming with anyone ever again after Vander tried to kill him. This is a man that would kill anyone or do anything to reach his aspirations, and yet when given his life's dream on a silver platter, he refuses it to protect his daughter. That is the power of parenthood. That is the unrelenting love of a parent, a love so strong that Vander died for it, and so overwhelming that Marcus betrayed his people for it. It's a love that is nonsensical, absolute, and sacrificial. It's a love that's able to affect even the most stoic of soldier or the most evil of villain, and a love that is as beautiful as it is ultimately tragic. For it's a love that comes at a cost, whether that's time, money, or one's own dream. The joy of parenthood requires a payment from one's self. But no matter what that cost is, it will never outweigh the beauty of one's own child. The love always wins out even in moments of hardship. It always ends in the desire to cherish and protect. It is the most powerful, most pure, most beautiful love in the world. And that is why, even though Jinx was the undoing of Silco's years of planning and the cause of his untimely demise, he tells her in that final scene that he would never give her up. Not for the world. There might not be anything as undoing as a daughter, but I'd argue there isn't anything more meaningful either.